Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the warning came through. He was sitting in his command chair aboard the EDF Valiant, watching the stars through the main viewer. The ship had been patrolling the outer rim for 3 months now. Jake and his crew were mapping new star systems and looking for places where humans could build colonies. It was quiet work, but Jake liked it that way. The communication console started beeping with an urgent signal. Lieutenant Amy Foster, his tactical officer, looked up from her station with concern. She had been with Jake for 2 years and knew that emergency signals in deep space were never good news. "Captain, we have an incoming transmission from an unknown source," Amy reported. Her fingers moved quickly across her controls as she tried to identify where the signal was coming from. "The signal is using frequencies we have never seen before." Jake set down his coffee cup and straightened in his chair. Dr. Peter Hayes, the ship's science officer, turned from his research station to listen. Peter was always curious about new discoveries, but even he looked worried about this unexpected contact. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main viewer flickered and then showed something that made everyone on the bridge stop what they were doing. A tall alien being appeared before them. Its body seemed to be made of living crystal that caught and reflected light in strange ways. The creature had multiple eyes arranged in a diamond pattern across its face. When it spoke, the ship's computers translated its words into English. "I am Ambassador Zeth Kalar of the Galactic Dominion Council," the alien said. Its voice was cold and commanding. "Your species has been observed expanding beyond your designated quarantine zone. This is your final warning. You will retreat to your home system immediately, or you will face complete annihilation." Jake felt his heart rate increase, but he kept his expression calm. In his 15 years of military service, he had learned that showing fear to an enemy was always a mistake. He looked at Amy and Peter, seeing his own surprise reflected in their faces. None of them had ever heard of a Galactic Dominion Council before. "With respect, Ambassador," Jake replied, keeping his voice steady. "We have detected no territorial markers or claims in this sector. Our expansion follows standard colonization protocols established by Earth Command. We are not violating any known boundaries." The alien's crystalline features began to pulse with a brighter inner light. Jake could see that his response had made the creature angry, though he was not sure why. The Valiant had been scanning this region of space for months, and had found no signs of intelligent life or territorial claims. "Ignorance of Dominion law is not an excuse," Ambassador Zeth Kalar said. The pulsing light in its crystal body grew stronger with each word. "These territories have been forbidden to lesser species for over 10,000 years. Your primitive vessels will withdraw immediately, or we will demonstrate why the entire galaxy fears the Dominion." Dr. Hayes leaned forward in his chair. Jake knew that look on the scientist's face. Peter was about to ask questions that might make their situation worse, but Jake also knew that Peter's curiosity had saved their lives more than once. 10,000 years? Peter asked, his scientific training overriding any concern for diplomacy. "We have found ruins in this sector that our dating methods show are only 3,000 years old. What exactly are you claiming dominion over? And based on what historical evidence?" The alien's eyes seemed to focus more intently on Peter. For a moment, Ambassador Zeth Kalar said nothing. Jake wondered if the question had surprised the creature somehow. "Your primitive dating methods are clearly flawed," the alien finally responded. "The Dominion has controlled these territories since before your species discovered fire. You will not question our authority again." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge of the Valiant in uncomfortable silence. Jake stared at the now empty main viewer, trying to process what had just happened. In all of Earth's expansion into space, they had never encountered anything like this before. Amy was the first to speak. "Captain, should I raise our defensive shields?" Jake nodded. "Do it. Also, start running active scans of the surrounding area. I want to know if we have company out here." Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez, the ship's communications officer, looked up from his station. "Sir, should I try to re-establish contact with the alien ship?" "Not yet," Jake said. He was thinking about the alien's words and trying to understand what they meant. "Ben, I need you to send a priority message to Earth Command. Use the quantum communication array. Tell them we have made contact with a hostile alien species that claims territorial rights over the outer rim." Peter stood up from his science station and walked over to Jake's chair. "Captain, there is something strange about what that alien told us. Our archaeological surveys of this region have been very thorough. We have found evidence of several extinct civilizations, but nothing that suggests a galactic empire. Amy looked up from her tactical display. Captain, my scans are not detecting any alien ships in the immediate area. Whatever that creature used to contact us, it was not from a nearby vessel. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. If the alien was not broadcasting from a ship, then where was it transmitting from? The technology required to send such a clear signal across interstellar distances was beyond anything Earth had developed. Peter, I want you to review all of our survey data from the past 3 months, Jake ordered. Look for anything we might have missed. Any signs of advanced technology, any archaeological evidence of a galactic civilization, anything at all. Dr. Hayes nodded and returned to his station. Jake watched him begin pulling up files and data charts. Peter was one of the smartest people Jake had ever worked with. If there was something to find in their data, Peter would find it. Ben Rodriguez called out from the communications station. Captain, I have established quantum link with Earth Command. Admiral Harrison wants to speak with you immediately. Jake took a deep breath. Admiral Jack Harrison was the head of the Earth Defense Force, and Jake had served under him for 5 years. Harrison was a good leader, but he was also known for his direct approach to problems. This conversation was not going to be easy. Put him through to my ready room, Jake said. Amy, you have the bridge. Continue scanning for any signs of alien activity. If anything appears on our sensors, I want to know about it immediately. As Jake walked toward his ready room, he thought about the alien's warning. The creature had called humans a lesser species and threatened complete annihilation if they did not retreat. But Jake had spent his entire career exploring space and defending human colonies. He was not ready to run away from a threat he did not understand. What worried Jake most was not the alien's hostile attitude, but the confidence in its voice when it spoke about 10,000 years of dominion. That kind of certainty usually came from real power, and Jake was beginning to suspect that humanity had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple territorial dispute. 3 weeks after Captain Jake Morrison received the alien warning, the research vessel EDF Pioneer pushed deeper into the Forbidden Sector. Captain Lisa Chen had read Morrison's report about the Galactic Dominion, but she believed that knowledge was more important than fear. Her ship was designed for exploration and discovery, not warfare. Lisa stood on the bridge of the Pioneer watching the stars ahead. Her crew was smaller than Morrison's, but they were all specialists in their fields. Dr. Ryan Cooper was the best archaeologist in the Earth Defense Force. Dr. Kate Williams knew more about alien biology than anyone else in human space. Major Tom Bradley was their military advisor, sent by Earth Command to keep them safe. Captain, we are approaching the 4th planet in the target system, reported Lieutenant Nina Walsh from the sensor station. Nina was young but very skilled with the ship's scanning equipment. I am detecting some unusual readings from the surface. Lisa moved to stand behind Nina's station. The sensor display showed a planet that looked normal from a distance, but the detailed scans revealed something extraordinary. What kind of unusual readings? Massive artificial structures covering most of the northern continent, Nina said. Her voice carried excitement and confusion. The structures appear to be made from materials that are not in our databases. They are also much larger than anything humans have ever built. Dr. Cooper looked up from his research station with interest. Ryan had spent his career studying the remains of ancient civilizations, and he could recognize important discoveries when he saw them. Captain, with your permission, I would like to take a closer look at those structures. Lisa nodded. Take us into orbit, Nina. I want full scans of the entire planet. As the Pioneer moved closer to the mysterious world, the true scale of what they had found became clear. The artificial structures were not just buildings, but massive geometric formations that stretched across entire continents. They appeared to be made from a crystalline material that seemed to bend light around itself in impossible ways. I have never seen anything like this, Dr. Williams said as she studied her biological scanners. Kate was looking for signs of life, but what she found was something different. I am detecting trace genetic markers throughout the ruins, but they are unlike any species we have encountered. Major Bradley studied the tactical implications of their discovery. Tom was a practical man who thought about threats and opportunities. If these structures are not from the Dominion, why are they so desperate to keep everyone away from this sector? Lisa was wondering the same thing. The alien ambassador had claimed that this territory belonged to the Dominion for 10,000 years, but the evidence before them suggested a different story. Ryan, how old do you think these structures are? Dr. Cooper was running detailed scans of the crystalline formations. Based on material decay and geological evidence, I estimate these ruins are at least 15,000 years old, possibly much older. Whatever civilization built this predates the Dominion's claimed ownership by several millennia. Lisa made a decision that would change everything. Prepare a landing party. I want to examine these structures up close. 2 hours later, Lisa led a team down to the planet's surface. The landing shuttle touched down near the largest structure, a pyramidal formation that rose nearly 2 kilometers into the sky. The away team included Dr. Cooper, Dr. Williams, Major Bradley, and Lieutenant Walsh. The ruins were even more impressive from ground level. The crystalline walls showed no signs of weathering despite their age. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with an internal light. The mathematical precision of the construction was beyond anything in human experience. The symbols appear to be some kind of writing system, Dr. Cooper observed, as he recorded everything with his equipment. But the mathematical principles behind the architecture are familiar. Whoever built this thought in ways that are similar to human logic. Dr. Williams was taking genetic samples from various locations throughout the ruins. The trace genetic markers I detected from orbit are stronger here. The species that built this was definitely humanoid, but with significant differences in neural structure and cellular composition. Major Bradley was more concerned with security than science. This is all very interesting, but we should remember that the Dominion warned us to stay away from this area. They might not appreciate us exploring their forbidden territory. Lisa understood Tom's concerns, but the scientific value of this discovery was too important to ignore. We will be careful, but we need to learn everything we can about this place. Dr. Cooper found what appeared to be a control room deep inside the largest structure. Ancient consoles lined the walls, their crystalline surfaces dark and inactive. But when Ryan approached one of the consoles, it suddenly came to life with a soft humming sound. "Captain, I think I accidentally activated something," he called out over his communication device. Lisa and the rest of the team rushed to Cooper's location. The console he had touched was now glowing brightly, and holographic displays were appearing in the air above it. The displays showed images and symbols that slowly began making sense as the team's translation computers worked on the language. "It appears to be some kind of historical record," Dr. Williams said as she studied the holographic data. "I can see images of the species that built this place. They called themselves the Architects." The historical records revealed an incredible story. The Architects had been a highly advanced civilization that had developed technologies far beyond anything the current galactic civilizations possessed. They had created faster-than-light communication systems, matter manipulation devices, and most importantly, tools that could enhance or suppress the technological development of other species. "This is impossible," Major Bradley said, as he watched the holographic records play out. "These Architects had technology that makes our most advanced systems look primitive." But the most shocking revelation was still to come. As the records continued, they showed how the Architect civilization had ended. They had not been destroyed by war or natural disaster. Instead, they had simply disappeared, leaving behind their technology and their cities for others to find. "Look at this section," Dr. Cooper said, pointing to a series of images that showed other species discovering Architect ruins. "It appears that the Dominion found these ruins thousands of years ago and used the Architect technology to build their empire." Dr. Williams was studying genetic data from the historical records. "There is something else. The genetic markers I have been finding are not just from the Architects. They match patterns that are remarkably similar to human DNA." Lisa felt a chill as she realized what Kate was suggesting. "Are you saying that the Architects were related to humans somehow?" "Not exactly related," Dr. Williams replied carefully. "But the neural patterns and genetic structures are so similar that it suggests a common evolutionary origin. The Architects may have been what humans could become with millions of years of additional development." The implications of this discovery were staggering. The Dominion had built their empire using technology stolen from an ancient human-like species, and they had used that same technology to keep other species from achieving their full potential. "We need to copy everything," Lisa decided. "Every record, every schematic, every piece of data we can find. Earth Command needs to know what we are really facing." As the team worked to download the Architect records, none of them noticed the subtle changes occurring throughout the ruins. Ancient defense systems dormant for millennia were slowly awakening in response to human presence. Deep beneath the planet's surface, powerful transmitters were beginning to send out signals across the galaxy. The humans had found much more than they were looking for, and their discovery would soon change the balance of power in the known universe. The Dominion's response came faster than anyone expected. Admiral Kethmore commanded the largest fleet in Dominion history as it moved toward the Forbidden Sector. 200 massive warships traveled through hyperspace, each one capable of destroying entire planets. The Admiral's orders from the Supreme Council were clear and simple: eliminate all human presence and secure the Architect ruins at any cost. On Earth, Fleet Admiral Jack Harrison stood in the Emergency Command Center, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and government officials, all working frantically to understand the threat they now faced. President Helen Brooks had arrived an hour earlier and was studying the data that Captain Lisa Chen's team had transmitted from the Architect homeworld. The intelligence we received from the Pioneer changes everything, explained Dr. Alan Murphy, Earth's chief science advisor. Alan was a thin man with gray hair who had spent his career studying alien technology. The Architects were essentially proto-humans who developed far beyond our current level. Their technology is compatible with human neural patterns in ways that the Dominion never anticipated. General Mary Patterson, head of Earth Defense Forces, looked skeptical as she studied the holographic displays showing Dominion fleet movements. Mary had been a soldier for 30 years and knew the reality of warfare. Even with this Architect technology, we are facing an empire that controls half the galaxy. They have thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. How can we possibly compete with that kind of military power? Dr. Murphy activated a new holographic display that showed human colonies scattered throughout the Outer Rim territories. The Dominion has made a critical error in their assessment of human capabilities. Our colonial expansion was not random exploration. Each settlement has been strategically placed to study local space for resources and tactical advantages that the Dominion ignored. Commodore Jake Morrison, recently promoted after his encounter with Ambassador Zethkalar, stepped forward to present the defense strategy. Jake had spent the past 3 weeks working with Earth Command to develop plans for the coming conflict. We cannot match their numbers in direct combat, but we do not need to. Humans have been fighting asymmetric warfare for thousands of years. We understand how to turn an enemy's size into a disadvantage. President Brooks listened carefully to all the presentations before making her decision. What are you proposing, Commodore? Jake activated a tactical display showing the Forbidden Sector and surrounding star systems. The Dominion fleet will expect to find scattered human vessels trying to flee back to Earth. Instead, we will give them a coordinated defense using technology they have never encountered before. Captain Chen's Pioneer will lead a formation that should not exist according to their intelligence. Dr. Murphy added technical details to Jake's plan. Human engineers have been working around the clock to adapt Architect technologies to our existing ships. The neural compatibility means we can interface directly with their systems in ways that enhance performance beyond original specifications. General Patterson was still concerned about the odds they faced. How many ships can we field against their 200? 37 vessels are currently being retrofitted with Architect systems, Jake replied. It sounds like terrible odds, but remember that the Dominion has never faced opponents who could match their technology. Their tactics are based on overwhelming technological superiority. 3 days later, the Dominion fleet arrived at the edge of the Forbidden Sector expecting an easy victory. Admiral Kethmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching sensor displays that showed human ships arranged in defensive formation around the fourth planet. The sight confused him because intelligence reports had suggested that humans possessed only primitive technology. How many enemy vessels are we detecting? He asked his tactical officer. 37 ships of various sizes, replied Commander Jethal, a reptilian species that had served the Dominion for over a century. They appear to be maintaining position rather than attempting to flee. Admiral Kethmore studied the tactical situation with growing puzzlement. In his experience, inferior species either fled immediately when confronted by Dominion forces or attempted desperate attacks that were easily defeated. The human formation suggested neither fear nor desperation. Begin the attack, he ordered. All ships will advance and destroy the human vessels. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that defy Dominion authority. The Dominion fleet moved forward in standard battle formation. Their ships were massive and heavily armed, designed to intimidate enemies through sheer size and firepower. Admiral Cathmore expected the human ships to break formation and scatter when they saw the overwhelming force approaching them. Instead, something unprecedented happened. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their formation shifting and adapting as they advanced to meet the Dominion attack. Energy shields that should not have existed on primitive human vessels began deflecting Dominion weapons. Return fire from human ships targeted weak points in Dominion armor that no enemy had ever identified before. "This is impossible," Admiral Cathmore said as he watched his tactical displays. "How are they coordinating their movements so precisely? How do their weapons know exactly where to target our ships?" His science officer, a slug-like being named Gorthal, was studying sensor readings with growing alarm. "Admiral, these human ships are using technology that matches architect specifications. That should be completely impossible. No species has ever successfully interfaced with architect systems." The battle became more intense as both fleets engaged at close range. Dominion ships that had never been damaged in combat were suddenly taking heavy fire from weapons that seemed to adapt and improve with each shot. Human vessels were performing maneuvers that their original designs should not have allowed. Captain Lisa Chen commanded the Pioneer at the center of the human formation. Her ship had been modified with more architect technology than any other vessel in the fleet. The integration between human consciousness and architect systems was working better than anyone had dared hope. "Nina, target their command ship's power distribution nodes," Lisa ordered her tactical officer. Lieutenant Nina Walsh had learned to use architect targeting systems that could identify weak points in enemy ships through quantum resonance scanning. "Direct hit on their main power coupling," Nina reported. "Their weapons are operating at 60% efficiency." Throughout the human fleet, similar successes were occurring. Commander Rick Stone led a squadron of modified fighters that could phase shift between normal space and hyperspace. Captain Diana Ross commanded a cruiser that could manipulate local gravity fields to deflect incoming fire and accelerate friendly projectiles. But the most significant development was not happening in space. The battle was being broadcast across the galaxy by human communication networks that the Dominion had not detected. Species that had served the Dominion for thousands of years were watching their supposedly invincible masters being outfought by a species they had never heard of before. On worlds throughout the galaxy, the subject races of the Dominion were receiving data packets containing the historical records from the architect ruins. The truth about the Dominion's stolen technology was spreading faster than their government could suppress it. The mighty empire that had ruled through fear and technological superiority was about to face its greatest crisis. Admiral Cathmore realized that he was not just losing a battle. He was witnessing the beginning of the end of everything the Dominion represented. The humans had not just found architect technology. They had awakened something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The battle spread across multiple star systems as more human forces arrived from distant colonies. Each new group brought different adaptations of architect technology that they had developed independently. Commander Rick Stone led his fighter squadron through hyperspace jumps that should have been impossible for ships of their size. His pilots could phase between dimensions, appearing behind enemy ships and disappearing before return fire could reach them. Captain Diana Ross commanded the heavy cruiser New York, which had been modified with gravity manipulation systems. Her ship could create artificial gravity wells that pulled enemy missiles off course and could accelerate her own weapons to incredible speeds. The Dominion forces had never faced anything like these new human capabilities, but the real revolution was happening throughout the galaxy as human transmission networks continued broadcasting the truth about Dominion history. On thousands of worlds, species that had served the Empire for millennia were learning that their technological limitations had been artificially imposed. The reptilian saurians, the gaseous ethereals, and the insectoid hive minds were all discovering that they had been deliberately kept primitive. On the Dominion homeworld of Vexthara Prime, Supreme Chancellor Vexithara faced the greatest crisis in Empire history. She stood in the Grand Council chamber surrounded by holographic displays showing rebellion breaking out across dozens of star systems. Her crystalline features pulsed with angry red light as she watched her empire begin to crumble. "The humans have doomed us all," she declared to the High Council members gathered around the chamber. If our subject species gain access to architect technology, the Empire will collapse within a single generation. Defense Minister Korath, a massive creature with multiple arms and a head covered in sensory organs, brought even worse news to the council meeting. Supreme Chancellor, our scientific analysis of human neural patterns shows something we failed to detect initially. These humans do not simply interface with architect technology. They are actually improving it. Their brains process information in ways that enhance the original designs. Beyond their intended specifications, the implications of this discovery terrified the Dominion leadership more than any military defeat could. For 10,000 years, they had maintained power by controlling access to architect technology. If humans could not only use that technology but actually improve it, then the foundation of Dominion civilization was under threat. Meanwhile, in a research facility on Earth, Dr. Alan Murphy was making the same discovery from the human perspective. He stood in a laboratory filled with architect devices that human engineers had been studying and modifying. The results of their work were beyond anything they had hoped for when the project began. The architects were not just humanoid, he explained to Admiral Jack Harrison through a secure communication link. Based on our analysis of their genetic patterns and neural structures, they were actually human ancestors. Humanity is not just compatible with their technology, we are literally their intended heirs. This revelation reached the Dominion subject species through human broadcasts, and the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Saurian Confederation, which had served the Dominion faithfully for 3,000 years, declared complete independence. The ethereal collective ceased all cooperation with Dominion military forces. The hive mind queens began developing their own versions of architect technology, using the data humans had shared freely. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kethmore watched his empire dissolving in real time. Communication reports showed that rebellion was spreading faster than Dominion forces could respond to it. Entire sectors were declaring independence, and many were actively joining the human cause. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 17 of our own ships, reported his communications officer. Their crews are requesting permission to defect to the Human Alliance. Kethmore felt something he had never experienced before in his military career. For the first time in Dominion history, their own forces were questioning their loyalty to the Empire. The certainty that had sustained Dominion rule for millennia was cracking under the weight of revealed truth. But the Supreme Chancellor had one final strategy to maintain power. Deep within the most secure facility on the Dominion homeworld, scientists were preparing a weapon that had never been used before. The stellar compression device could collapse a star and create a supernova that would destroy everything within 50 light-years. Commander Rick Stone, operating deep in Dominion territory with his stealth squadron, intercepted communications about this terrible plan. His ships had been gathering intelligence behind enemy lines when they detected the weapon preparations. "Command, this is Stone," he transmitted to Admiral Harrison using quantum-encrypted channels. "The Dominion is planning to destroy the Architect homeworld system. They are going to collapse the star and eliminate all the technology and historical records. If they cannot control the Architect legacy, they intend to make sure nobody else can have it either." The race against time had begun. Human forces and their new alien allies had to reach the Architect homeworld before the Dominion could destroy it forever. But the Dominion had a head start, and their stellar compression weapon was already being moved into position. Dr. Murphy coordinated with human colonies throughout the galaxy to locate every piece of architect technology they had discovered. "We need to preserve as much knowledge as possible," he told his research teams. "If they destroy the homeworld, the information we have gathered might be all that survives of architect civilization." Captain Lisa Chen received orders to take the Pioneer directly to the Architect homeworld system. Her ship had the most advanced integration of human and architect technology, making it the best choice for what might be humanity's final confrontation with the Dominion. "The Dominion is making their last desperate move," she told her crew as they prepared for hyperspace jump. "They would rather destroy everything than allow other species to achieve their full potential. We cannot let them succeed." Dr. Ryan Cooper, working in the Pioneer's modified archaeology lab, was studying the deepest architect records they had recovered. Captain, there is something else we need to consider. The Architect homeworld might not be just a planet with ruins on it. Some of these records suggest that the entire world might be an artificial construct. The implications of Ryan's discovery were staggering. If the Architect homeworld was actually a massive technological artifact, then destroying it would eliminate far more than historical records. It might erase the key to understanding how Architect technology actually worked. As human and allied forces raced toward the final confrontation, the Dominion prepared to commit an act of destruction that would echo across the galaxy for generations. The empire that had ruled through suppression of knowledge was about to attempt the ultimate suppression by destroying the source of all advanced technology in the known universe. The forbidden territory that had started this conflict was about to become the site of a battle that would determine whether the galaxy would move forward into a new age of cooperation and growth, or whether it would be plunged into darkness by an empire that preferred destruction to the loss of power. The final confrontation took place in the Architect homeworld system, where ancient technologies that had slept for thousands of years began awakening in response to human presence. Captain Lisa Chen commanded a mixed fleet of human ships and newly allied vessels from species across the galaxy. They arrived to find Dominion forces positioned around a massive device that pulsed with dangerous energy. "Captain, the Dominion stellar compression weapon is almost ready to fire," reported Lieutenant Nina Walsh from her sensor station. Nina had become expert at reading Architect technology displays, and what she saw terrified her. If they activate that device, the star will collapse and create a supernova that will destroy everything within 50 light-years. Lisa studied the tactical situation carefully. The Dominion had positioned their remaining fleet between the human forces and the compression weapon. Admiral Kethmore was making his final stand, determined to destroy the Architect homeworld even if it meant sacrificing his own ships in the process. But as the human fleet moved closer to the planet, something extraordinary happened. The world itself began to respond to their presence in ways that nobody had anticipated. Dr. Ryan Cooper, monitoring the archaeological sensors from the Pioneers Science Lab, watched in amazement as energy readings spiked across the entire planet. "Captain, the planet is not what we thought it was," he called out over the ship's communication system. "The entire world is artificial. It is not a planet with Architect ruins on it. The whole thing is one massive Architect construct." The truth became clear as the planet's surface began to shift and change. What had appeared to be continents and oceans revealed themselves to be components of an incredibly advanced artificial intelligence. The Architect homeworld was not just a repository of their technology. It was their greatest creation, a planetary-scale mind that had been waiting for the return of its creators. "I am the Architect Central Intelligence." A voice spoke directly into the consciousness of every human in the fleet. The communication did not come through their ship's communication systems, but seemed to originate from within their own minds. "You are the children of my builders, evolved beyond their original form but carrying their essential nature. The Dominion has violated the fundamental laws of galactic development." Supreme Chancellor Vexthara, monitoring the battle from her command center on the Dominion homeworld, watched in horror as her force's most powerful weapon began to malfunction. The stellar compression device was designed to be unstoppable, but it was failing in ways that her scientists could not explain. "What is happening to our weapon?" she demanded of her technical staff. "The compression field is being countered by some kind of spatial manipulation," reported Chief Scientist Mothkar. "The Architect construct is not just defending itself. It is actually stabilizing the star beyond its natural parameters. The Architect Central Intelligence activated defense systems that made all previous galactic technology appear primitive by comparison." Space itself seemed to bend and twist around the artificial world as the stellar compression weapon was not only stopped, but completely reversed. The Dominion's ultimate weapon became a tool for stellar enhancement, actually extending the life of the star by millions of years. Admiral Kethmore, watching his final strategy fail completely, realized the absolute futility of his situation. "Request terms of surrender," he ordered his communications officer. His crystalline features had dimmed to almost complete darkness, showing his defeat and despair. But humanity's response surprised everyone in the galaxy, including their own allies. Admiral Jack Harrison, speaking for all of Earth, transmitted a message that would be remembered for generations. "We are not here to conquer your empire or replace your government. Harrison announced to the Dominion forces. "We are here to free the galaxy from artificial limitations that have held back every species for too long." The final human transmission was broadcast across every inhabited world in known space. It contained not just the complete historical records of the architect civilization, but also open-source access to all the technologies that the Dominion had hoarded for millennia. Every species, regardless of how primitive the Dominion had forced them to remain, suddenly had access to tools that could transform their civilizations overnight. President Helen Brooks addressed the newly formed Galactic Council of Free Worlds from Earth. "We were warned to stay away from forbidden territory," she said to representatives from dozens of species. "Instead, we found the keys to galactic freedom. The Dominion Empire ends today, not through conquest or destruction, but through the simple act of returning to every species what was always rightfully theirs." The Architect's central intelligence, after 10,000 years of dormancy, began the process of awakening similar constructs throughout the galaxy. Each world that had once hosted architect colonies contained sleeping artificial intelligences that could guide and assist developing civilizations. The galaxy was about to experience a renaissance of growth and discovery. Captain Lisa Chen stood on the observation deck of the Pioneer, watching as former Dominion warships worked alongside human vessels to establish the first joint research stations. Species that had been enemies for thousands of years were now collaborating to understand technologies that none of them had imagined possible. Dr. Alan Murphy coordinated the largest scientific project in galactic history as researchers from 47 different species worked together to catalog and understand the full extent of architect knowledge. The technology that the Dominion had used to suppress other civilizations was being transformed into tools for enhancement and growth. Commander Rick Stone received a new assignment as head of the Galactic Exploration Service. His mission was to seek out other forbidden territories throughout the galaxy, places where the Dominion had hidden additional architect sites or suppressed the development of promising species. 5 years after the warning that started it all, the galaxy had become something that nobody could have predicted. The rigid hierarchy of the Dominion had been replaced by a cooperative network of civilizations, each contributing their unique strengths and perspectives to the benefit of all. The Architect's central intelligence established communication networks that connected every inhabited world, ensuring that knowledge would never again be hoarded by a few at the expense of many. The artificial intelligences served as teachers and guides, but they did not rule. They had learned from the Dominion's mistakes and understood that true progress came from diversity and freedom. The forbidden territory that had begun as humanity's simple exploration mission had become the foundation of a new galactic civilization. The warning to stay away had been transformed into an invitation for all species to reach their full potential. The galaxy that had once lived in fear of a suppressive empire now looked toward a future of unlimited possibilities. Jake Morrison, now an admiral in the Galactic Defense Force, often reflected on that first encounter with Ambassador Zeth Kalar. The aliens' warning had been intended to preserve an empire built on lies and stolen technology. Instead, it had led to the discovery of truth that freed every species in the galaxy to become what they were truly meant to be.